My husband's brother invited us to stay for a week. The moment we arrived, his wife refused to let me use the bathroom upstairs and made me sleep on a thin mat in the garage. On the fourth night, I found something in the laundry room that could tear their marriage apart. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I told my husband I didn't feel right about it from the start. His brother Caleb and I never really clicked. It was one of those cold, polite relationships where you nod at holidays and avoid deeper conversations. But my husband insisted, said Caleb had invited us both to stay for a week at their newly remodeled house in Sacramento. He framed it as a family bonding trip, like they were trying to patch up the distance. I didn't believe that for a second. Caleb's wife, Morgan, had never liked me, and I had no idea why. Still, I agreed. I shouldn't have. We pulled into their driveway late in the afternoon. The house looked like one of those homes you see in a real estate ad, too clean, too polished, almost sterile. Caleb came out to greet us, grinning like a politician. Morgan trailed behind him. She gave my husband a hug, but when she turned to me, her whole body shifted. Her smile was fake, tight. She looked at me like I was an obligation. Her first words weren't, "Welcome," or "How was the drive?"
No.
She said, "Hope you don't mind. Things are a little tight with the space." I was confused, but tried to stay pleasant. We followed them inside. Morgan pointed upstairs and said, "So Caleb and my husband will take the guest room. They can catch up, talk all night like the old days." She turned to me with that same fake smile and said, "You'll be in the garage." We set up a mat and a blanket. It's not much, but it's clean. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. I waited for her to say she was kidding. She wasn't. She led me to the garage. Concrete floor, no insulation, just a yoga mat and a fleece blanket laid out next to a water heater and a row of storage bins. There was a single standing lamp plugged into the wall, barely lighting the space. No windows. No air. It was January.
Cold at night.
I looked at my husband. He rubbed the back of his neck and muttered something about it being temporary. I should have walked out right then, but I didn't. I didn't want to be that wife who causes drama. So I swallowed it. I laid down on that thin mat that night in my clothes, curled up like a child, and tried to sleep. I didn't. The next morning, I got up before anyone else. I was freezing. I found the staircase to the second floor and started up. Halfway up, Morgan appeared out of nowhere. "That's the upstairs bathroom," she said, blocking the way. "I just need to. We use the downstairs half bath for guests. The upstairs one is private."
Ist zerrte her.
"There's no shower downstairs." She shrugged. "There's a gym down the street." She walked off before I could say anything. I turned to my husband again. He looked embarrassed, but didn't say a word.
Not to me, not to them.
Just kept pretending nothing was wrong. Every day got worse. Morgan was on me constantly about how I loaded the dishwasher, how I folded my blanket, how long I was lingering in the kitchen. If I left a coffee mug on the counter, she'd pick it up with 2 fingers like it was covered in filth and say, "We don't leave things out here." She controlled the thermostat and kept the heat low at night, said it was expensive to run it with someone sleeping in the garage. Caleb said nothing. My husband said less than nothing. 3 nights in, I hadn't showered. My back ached from the floor. My skin felt dirty. I started walking to the gas station a block away, just to use the bathroom in peace. The 4th night, I gave up on sleep. I laid there on the mat with that thin blanket, listening to Caleb and my husband laugh upstairs. They were talking like it was summer camp. I wasn't even part of it.
I didn't exist.
Around midnight, I got up to use the bathroom. As I passed the hallway, I heard their voices upstairs, low, intense. Not laughing anymore. I couldn't make out words, just Caleb's voice saying something like, "She can't know." I froze. My stomach turned. I walked toward the laundry room, mostly just to get away, maybe warm up near the dryer. I opened the door, stepped in, and something caught my eye. There was a manila folder wedged between the dryer and the wall.
Thick.
Like someone had tried to hide it but didn't do a good job. I pulled it out. I shouldn't have, but I did. Inside were printed emails, screenshots, and financial records. At first, I didn't get it. Then I saw the names Caleb and Morgan's. One set of transfers from Caleb's account to an account under Morgan's name. Thousands of dollars. Then the emails, Morgan and someone named Jason. Texts, emails, photos. Very personal. Very explicit. There was a prenup in there too.
Signed. Clear as day.
If she cheated, she got nothing. I stood there shaking. Not out of fear, out of rage. Everything I'd gone through in the last 4 days suddenly made sense. I put the folder back exactly how I found it. Walked out like nothing happened. But something had changed. Morgan thought she'd broken me. She thought she could humiliate me in her home, and I'd just take it. She didn't know what I'd just seen. And she sure as hell didn't know what I was planning to do next. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just lay there on that cold garage floor, staring up at the water heater, hearing every creak in the house above me. My heart wasn't pounding from fear anymore. It was something colder than that. Focused. Steady. I knew I couldn't confront her. Not yet. If she found out I saw that folder, she'd find a way to twist it. She'd cry.
She'd blame me.
Maybe even say I forged the emails. Caleb? He'd believe whatever made his life easiest. That much was clear now. So I did what I do best. I watched. I waited. The next morning, Morgan came out to the garage with a tray of food. 1 scrambled egg, dry toast, and a paper cup of orange juice. Figured you'd want to eat out here, she said. Kitchen's getting crowded. She put the tray down on the concrete and walked away. I picked it up, walked right inside, and sat at the kitchen table. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't say a word. I smiled and ate slowly. I wanted her to know I wasn't scared of her anymore. That same day, I started going on walks. I told them I needed air. What I really did was find a nearby FedEx office. I paid to make copies of everything in that folder. Every email, every transfer, every line of the prenup. I kept the folder untouched, exactly where I found it, but now I had all the evidence in my own hands. I also called in a favor. My cousin, Lainey, is a divorce paralegal in San Diego. I asked her, hypothetically, how something like this would play out in California. She asked a few questions and then said, if it's a signed prenup and she's cheating, she's screwed. No alimony, no property split. Nothing. That was enough. That night, things got worse. Morgan accidentally locked the garage door from the inside after I went out to use the bathroom. I was standing barefoot in the hallway when I realized I couldn't get back in. I knocked once. Then again. She opened the door 10 minutes later in her robe, fake yawning. Oh, sorry, she said. Must have hit the lock without thinking. I didn't say a word. But the next morning, I went to Walmart and bought a cheap lockbox for the copies and a prepaid phone. I wasn't about to get cornered. On day 6, my husband and I finally got a moment alone. I asked him, why are you letting them treat me like this? He looked exhausted. I just wanted this trip to go smoothly. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal? I said. I've been sleeping on the floor like a stray animal, and you're up there laughing with them? He rubbed his face. Caleb said Morgan has anxiety, that she needs things a certain way. Do you even hear yourself? He didn't answer. He just walked away. I realized then, I was alone in this.
Completely.
But that's when the plan started forming. I wasn't just going to expose Morgan. I was going to make sure everyone who failed me paid.
Caleb.
Morgan. Even my husband. They all made their choices. Now, I was going to make mine. I had 2 days left before we were supposed to drive back home. I had the folder copied, the phone hidden, the lockbox tucked deep in the trunk of our car under a pile of bags. I just needed to keep my head down. But then something happened that changed everything again. The next morning, I overheard Morgan on the phone. She was in the kitchen, talking too loud, too confident. No, I told you, she said. He'll be out of the picture soon. Caleb's rewriting the will this month. My chest tightened. She lowered her voice then, so I couldn't make out the rest, but I knew the tone. I knew that voice. It was the voice of someone who thought she'd already won. That afternoon, Caleb pulled me aside for the first time all week. "I feel like there's tension," he said. "Morgan's sensitive. I know the setup isn't ideal, but we just wanted this visit to go smoothly." I stared at him. "So sleeping in a freezing garage while your wife treats me like a dog is smooth to you?" He looked genuinely confused. "Morgan said you were fine with it. She said you offered." "Offered?" My laugh was sharp and bitter. "You really believe that?" He looked away. "She said you didn't want to disrupt the space upstairs." That's when it hit me. Morgan had been spinning this story from the beginning, not just to Caleb but to my husband too. She made it sound like I was happy to sleep in the garage. Like I preferred it. And they believed her. It wasn't just disrespect anymore, it was gaslighting. That night, I finally confronted my husband. "She's planning something with Caleb's money," I said. "I heard her on the phone." "I found. You're overreacting," he cut in. "You've been angry this whole trip." I pulled out the prepaid phone. I had the photos stored on it. "Look at these." He stared at the screen, scrolling through emails, transfers, the prenup. His face changed. "Where did you get these?" he whispered. "Laundry room. Tucked behind the dryer. She's been draining his account and screwing some guy named Jason. You think this is all in my head?" He didn't answer. Just walked out of the garage. The next morning, everything exploded. Morgan came into the garage before sunrise. She was holding the original folder. "I know you found this," she said. "You think you're clever?" I stayed silent. "You think Caleb would believe you over me?" "He'd rather lose every dollar than believe his wife cheated." That's when she made a mistake. She got close. Too close. She whispered, "You don't know what you've walked into." And she was right. Because until then, I hadn't realized just how far she was willing to go. She wasn't just manipulating Caleb emotionally. She was setting him up. And I was starting to think she had bigger plans, dangerous ones. After Morgan left the garage that morning, I didn't move for almost an hour. Her words kept echoing in my head. "You don't know what you've walked into." It wasn't just arrogance. It was a warning. I wasn't paranoid anymore. I was in the middle of something real, dangerous, ugly, and deeper than I ever imagined. And no one was coming to save me. I went back to the FedEx office and printed out one more set of the documents. This time, I addressed them to Caleb. Sealed them in an envelope. Wrote one sentence on the inside flap. "Ask her who Jason is." Then I did something I wasn't sure I had the stomach for. I texted Jason. The number was on one of the screenshots. He responded almost immediately, like he didn't know what the risk was. I said I was Morgan's sister-in-law and that I'd found some things he might want to know. He asked if this was about the prenup situation. That told me everything. He knew. Maybe not the whole story, but enough to be dangerous. Enough to know Morgan was married, that she was lying to Caleb, and that money was on the line. I didn't respond after that. I had what I needed. That night, while everyone was watching a movie upstairs, I left the envelope in Caleb's briefcase in his office. My husband didn't say much to me after I showed him the evidence. He didn't ask questions, didn't offer help, but he watched me like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. On the final morning, Morgan came downstairs dressed up, makeup perfect, acting like the last 6 days hadn't happened. She made pancakes, offered me some like nothing was wrong. "We should do this again next year," she said. "Maybe a longer trip." Caleb smiled and nodded. My husband mumbled something and looked at his plate. I just looked at her. I didn't respond. I wanted her to feel the silence. I wanted her to wonder if I had already moved.
She didn't know about the envelope.
She didn't know I'd made sure copies were in 3 separate places. She didn't know I'd spoken to Jason, but she was about to find out. We drove home that afternoon in silence. My husband didn't say much for the first hour. Then, halfway through the drive, he finally asked, "Are you going to tell Caleb?" I didn't answer him. I just looked out the window and said, "He'll figure it out soon." I meant it. The envelope I slipped into Caleb's briefcase was only the beginning. 2 days after we got back, I mailed another copy anonymously from a post office across town. I made sure the postmark was from a different city. I didn't want it traced back to me too easily. And then I waited. 10 days after we left Sacramento, my husband got a call from Caleb. I could hear the yelling through the phone. Not just yelling, screaming. Raw, betrayed fury. When he hung up, my husband looked pale.
He found the emails.
The prenup. Everything. What did Morgan say?
I asked.
She denied it. Then she said someone forged everything. But he already contacted his attorney. That was just the beginning. I found out later that Caleb had her served at her job. He didn't even wait. Straight divorce filing. He froze the joint accounts, shut down her access to his business assets, and moved out of the house within a week. Apparently, Jason ghosted her the minute things started unraveling. She had nothing. The prenup kicked in hard. Infidelity, clause ironclad.
No alimony.
No share of the business. Not even the car. She tried to fight it, but Caleb's lawyer was ruthless. She walked away with some furniture and maybe a few thousand from her personal savings. And then came the real justice social fallout. Morgan had always played perfect wife in their circle. PDA, charity dinners, holiday parties. But once the divorce papers hit and people saw what she'd done, not just the cheating but the way she humiliated me during our visit, word got around. Her friends dropped her. Her own sister posted something passive-aggressive on Facebook that got screenshotted and shared. Family doesn't mean treating someone like trash in your house while you sleep with a gym trainer named Jason. Some people need to sit with that. She was ruined. Reputationally. Financially.
Personally.
But the part that surprised me the most? My husband. He changed. I don't mean overnight. But something cracked in him after the call from Caleb. I think seeing his brother unravel, that quickly woke something up. He started apologizing, not just for the trip, but for months, maybe years of dismissing me. He asked if I wanted a break. If I needed space. I told him I didn't want space. I wanted honesty. I wanted partnership. And if he couldn't give me that, I'd leave and never look back. He chose to stay and prove he meant it. He's still trying. I don't know where we'll end up, but for now, I see the effort. As for me, I didn't get money. I didn't get public credit, but I got something better. I got to watch Morgan's whole act fall apart. I got to hear from Caleb himself, weeks later, when he texted me out of the blue. I'm sorry I let her treat you that way. I see it all now. Thank you for what you did. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because revenge doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's cold, quiet, and hits hardest when they finally realize you were the one holding the match all along.